Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jason Brownell from Molten Graphics and Polyfuse Graphics Corporation, and here today to talk about polymer fusion technology, how it works, why. And I have a special guest that's going to be joining, Alisa Turner from Ruffland Kennels, and we'll bring her on here in a moment. But before we get into those discussions, I want to make sure that everybody kind of understands polymer fusion technology, what it is, how it works. So I'm going to quickly go over just a few things and kind of a 101, if you will. So when decorating polyethylene and polypropylene, it can certainly be a challenge. These are just materials that nothing wants to stick well to long term. And there's some reasons for that, why adhesive type technologies struggle. And I'd like to go over some of those reasons right now. So, first off, very low surface energy material. Nothing really wants to stick well to it. And we don't stick to it either. And I'll explain more on that here in a moment. But when you look at the surface energy of polyethylene and polypropylene, it's very, very low. It kind of comes in down there around Teflon, which of course we use that to coat our cookware so that things don't stick to it. So again, this is just one method for calculating surface energy, and it's called dynes per centimeter. But again, very low surface energy material. Next up is expansion and contraction of the plastic as it gets hot and cold. And so I've used this analogy over and over again, and I still think it's applicable. So forgive me for anybody who's heard me say this, but it's kind of like putting an adhesive bandage over your knuckle. Everything is fine as long as you keep things flat. But as soon as you start flexing it, then things want to start to kind of delaminate from an adhesive standpoint. And then of course you add moisture to the equation if you have products that are going maybe through a cleaning cycle or being pressure washed and things like that, then that delamination really kind of accelerates. And then lastly, and we see this quite a bit with injection molding materials where there'll be outgassing. So if you've ever seen a sticker, for example, that has bubbles and blisters underneath it, that's probably related to the outgassing itself. And so before we get into our technology and kind of how it's different, it, I find it appropriate to kind of go over what's out there. So first off, just a good old fashioned sticker. And again, you're taking adhesive, you're trying to make it stick to a very low surface energy material, and things want to delaminate like we're seeing in these photos here. Next up, you know, there are like pad printing and hot stamping, for example. And again, these are materials that, they're ink related, they have adhesive to them. And again, trying to stick to a material that nothing wants to stick to well. So, what is polymer fusion? That's why we're here today and we're talking about it. If you look at this white section up the top, that's indicative of one of our label materials. And we have lots of different application methods. But to really understand this, think of our label because it's a thin layer of plastic. And we are putting that in contact either with the plastic product or we're putting it in the mold in the case of rotational molding, and we're putting it then in contact with the plastic resin. So, what's happening is the plastic resin is melting, the plastic label is melting, and the two melt together to become one piece of plastic, which is why it's as durable as it is. And so that's one of the big reasons why people come to us is because they're looking for that durability and the performance on their part for the life of the part. And so this is just a really quick snapshot, showing some of the things like various chemicals where it's not being necessarily misted or wiped with these chemicals, but actually submerged in those materials. Um, And so I talked earlier that we do have different ways of applying one of our plastic labels. And the first one, this would be for rotational molding. And you're actually taking that plastic label and you're transferring it to the mold wall. Then you remove this carrier film and then you pour in your resin. It goes through its normal rotomolding cycle. And when the part cools and comes out of the mold, it is permanently labeled with that label that you installed into the mold. So that's one way to go about it. Everything that we have here is related to heat and melting things together. So again, this goes in the mold. And then next, we have what's called a mold on graphic. Maybe you're in a position where you want to take an existing product and do some private labeling on it. So we do have a solution for that. And the way those are installed is they're put onto the surface of the plastic. Carrier film is then removed, and then you use a shrink wrap torch to reach the melt temperature of those two materials and fuse them together. So hopefully that makes sense. On the injection molded side of things, we also have technology that can be used with traditional hot stamp or heat transfer equipment as well. So lots of reasons why people come to us. Branding is probably one of the number one reasons. We do have materials for, tracking and tracing and safety and all sorts of things, but branding is probably one of the number one reasons. And um, safety and warnings, a lot of times people are wanting to put instructional panels, things that are meant to keep the consumer safe, and they want to make sure that that's there for the life of the product as well. So that's another big part of our polymer fusion technology and what people come to us for. And then lastly, at the end of the day, and I see a lot of people designing products now where they will plan for the end of the life of that part. And so at the end of the day, because our label material becomes part of the plastic, it can be 100% recyclable and ground up and made into another piece of plastic. So it is fully sustainable and like I say, 100% recyclable at the end of its life. So thank you for allowing me to go through that just really quickly. And I'm going to remove that from the stage and bring on my special guest today. Hello, Alisa.
Special. Hello, good
Alisa,
morning. I like being
good.
called special.
Well, we've known one another a long time, and
Yes.
really appreciate everything that we've done together. So, tell me a little bit about yourself, Alisa.
Yeah. Thank you so much for asking me to come on.
You bet.
I am the current CEO of Ruffland Kennels. I have been here. This is my 13th year with the company. I was introduced to you right from the start. There, Jason was my go-to guy. That what I was told by my employers at the time. I just started in a very minute role here at Ruffland, just helping out the two owners with packaging things up, getting things shipped out, reaching out to our suppliers, reaching out to our customers. We were pretty small at the time, so I was kind of the one woman show handling all of that. We just had a couple of machine operators. So as you mentioned, we do rotational molding. So you had
Okay.
mentioned that in your talk, um, and yeah, then we just continued to grow, thankfully, and I continued to develop relationships with our suppliers. I had to get a crash course in everything rotational molding. What is resin? What's a graphic? What's a molding graphic? What's a thermal? All a MIG. All of this stuff. And so I
Acronyms. Yeah.
appreciated, yeah, I appreciated like you explained your explanation before me coming on here, that all the chemical, the physical, the science behind it all, and I just know that they darn work, and they're amazing for our application. And we've been using you guys, for I think going on probably 15 years, so a couple years before I joined the company. And
For
from that time, yeah, I started out with just like one graphic on our kennel, and now we have multiple other products that complement our kennels. We have a lot of accessory items. Plus, we still do custom rotational molding for other companies, and they rely on us to make their part and to also source their graphics for them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to kind of ask because, when I think of Ruffland Kennels, and I know how durable your products are, and I think kennels, but, understanding that you do have a custom portion of your work as well, right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's how they started. That's how the company got its start. The company originally was called Rotomold LLC.
Okay.
We're based here in South Dakota, and that's all they did was the custom parts. They did dumpster lids, roping steers, gas tanks, a lot of feeders for farm equipment, and then as time went on, they wanted their own proprietary product. It had a lot to do with the economy at the time, during the recession. And then the two gentlemen owners who are my business partners now got busy designing a better kennel to have on the market than what was out there that didn't really withstand the rigors of what people put their kennels through. And they designed and patented the first of its kind one-piece rotational molded kennel. And
Wow.
with that is what kind of took off and was my primary focus when I came on with them, but still retaining these custom customers, and they have come to rely on us over the years, and we continue to get more customers with custom products, and we appreciate the fact that they trust us with their items as well.
For sure. And it was really funny in our discussions when I think of kennels, I think dog and cat, right? Um, and there's so much more. Can you talk to some of these slides? It's really fascinating what you guys do.
Yeah, I know. And a lot of people, like you said, they don't realize it. Sometimes we don't even realize it until somebody reaches out to us. People are purchasing our kennels. We don't always know who it is or who the end user is, right? But as time has gone on and we might see that it went to a wildlife sanctuary or something, we'll be reaching out. So the slide that you have up here is for Sea Life Alaska. Actually, they do rehabilitation with the seals and the sea lions. And what they said about our kennel was that obviously it withstands the rigors of salt water, right? And hence the graphic has to withstand that as well. So they also like the fact that there's not parts that rust on ours. Very lightweight, very durable, easy to clean. And we've been fortunate that now we're getting seen and used by a lot more of these places. And it just, it makes you smile when you see the things that your product gets to be used for.
For sure. I know I drive my wife nuts sometimes because I walk by things and I'm like, oh, that's us. That's us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's amazing the different types of applications that are out there.
Oh, for
So,
sure. Yeah, and
the,
then we've branched out into the agricultural. We even have one kennel bigger than the one that you're seeing, for, again, being in South Dakota and being a big ag community. We've
Mhm.
also tried to reach out to them for things like calving and bringing their sheep or goats or whatever to different places. Or even if they have to make a trip to the vet, you often don't think, well, gosh, do I have to load up the trailer, hook the trailer up to the truck and pull? No, now they can just, get their animal in the kennel, bring it, easy peasy, separate them off if they need to. And we just love these pictures that people send to us.
Yeah, these are great. Like I say, I had no idea the extent like this one.
Yeah. This is a give and rescue thing. This is one of our older graphics. So this is when we were called Rough Tough Kennels. And so you might see that looks a little different there. But again, like I said, we've been with you for, gosh, 14, 15, whatever years. And again, you're dealing with wild animals. You're dealing with different environments, whether it's sun, water, whatever it is. And you want that graphic to be on there because you want someone to see this, right? You're seeing this at a sanctuary or a zoo or whatever, and you're like, oh, cool, Rough Tough Kennels or Ruffland Kennels. And that just really helps solidify our brand, like you mentioned earlier. Obviously, the Ruffland graphic is primarily for branding, but we do the other things like the warning stuff. It's important to have warning labels on, or sometimes you just have fun with things, right? Like if you come up with a catchy name for one of your products, you really want to put that out there and solidify that in people's minds.
Absolutely.
Ah,
this guy, I love it.
I
I love
know.
it.
It's so this is a baby grizzly bear, believe it or not, and it is at there's a down in Alabama. There's a grizzly rescue wildlife sanctuary. I don't know exactly how they categorize themselves, but they are buying up our kennels. For the use of transporting their cubs, like if they have to do some veterinary services on them or have them checked out or just transport them from one location to the other. And this picture, I just love it. It looks fake. Like people are like, that's not real. I'm like, well, it is real because I have a lot of other photos, where you can see them like tumbling around in there and doing other things. But again, when
Love
you're dealing in these types of environments, having our graphic on there is just priceless.
absolutely. I love how he is smiling,
I know. He looks like he's
right?
smiling. He's like so happy to be in
Jeez.
there. I know. It is
No, that's fantastic.
yeah, we do
What is going on here?
yep, we do a lot of work with law enforcement and military,
Ah,
and they are utilizing our kennels for when they have their canine units or their dog um, uh, trainings that they do because
mhm,
sometimes they have to extract the dog out of an environment. I mean, you have these kennels over in our areas where we're stationed out over in Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, and they're going in and they're doing a mission. While they have their dog with them, they might be at the top of a building. How do you get your dog up and out and in and out safely? This is a training where they're dropping, practicing. This was just a practice, obviously, dropping the dog into a zone. And again, our kennels are durable. They can utilize the attachment points on the kennel to loop their ropes and whatever through their safety equipment. They could use the vent holes for it. And again, I mean, gosh, having our name on something like that, invaluable.
absolutely. Yes, you talked earlier about the durability. And yesterday, when we were going over a few things, we talked about what kind of testing do you do? And I was just, how did you phrase it yesterday as far as testing?
Well, I said I'd rather have real world testing than a simulation test done in a environment. And this is real world testimonials right here, and a testament to if you want a crash testimonial, here it is, right? Are you crash rated? A lot of times we get that word, you're not crash rated, you're not crash rated. And I say, well, I feel like we are, because we have these types of testimonials by the hundreds, probably thousands by now. And honestly, it almost brings me to tears because this was one where they reached out. The dog wasn't actually in the kennel, but the driver of the vehicle, she had actually loaned this vehicle to a friend. They got in this terrible accident, and the first responders and EMTs said, if not for that kennel, the driver of the vehicle would not have survived. And
Mm,
so that's the things that warm your heart and keep you doing what you do and coming to work every day and feeling proud about what we make, and also continuing to strive to make the best thing out there. And then how can we make this, experience with Ruffland Kennels the best experience for whatever pet or whatever adventure you're doing. But yeah,
mhm.
this, and we do testing on our material, like you do impact testing, you do temperature testing, you do all of that, obviously. um,
Sure.
After the fact, we have to test our graphics too. Like we're taking, screwdrivers to it and like, oh, how's this graphic performing? And we do mold in and mold on. There's
Mhm.
reasons for both, as you mentioned. Um, we love mold on too for sometimes when you're doing that transfer into the mold, like you had mentioned, maybe my machine operator didn't quite get that transfer fully in there. The part comes out, the graphics kind of scraped or not fully transferred on one end, and you're like, now what do I do with this part? You don't want to scrap this part, right? So what the nice thing is we can remove that mold in graphic with a certain process, put that mold on graphic, and it's still, I mean, the lifespan of that mold on graphic is amazing as well.
Yeah, people ask me all the time, do you prefer mold ins or mold ons? And I really don't have a preference other than when you put it into a mold, that the temperature of the rotomolding process is going to cook it in whether
Yep.
you like it or not. So if you can do it in the mold, great, but there's certainly times for doing it as a secondary process as well. So
Yeah, and another time that we do it as a secondary process is because um, we partner with some conservation organizations, and
sure.
they worked with us to have certain of our items that they offer to their members to be uh, logoed with their membership logo. And instead of keeping on hand, dozens, because we don't keep inventory here, we run lean manufacturing, which means we make to order. So instead of having hundreds of those on hand, and having them sit there on the floor with a mold in graphic on them, what we can do is we just run our normal product, and then if someone orders one with the branded, we just take those mold on graphics, do the after brand, and ship it out.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
The other thing I forgot to mention at the very, very beginning of this is anybody who's watching this, if you want to make comments or if you have questions, you can put them in the chat and we will address those at the very end. In fact, there's somebody on there right now talking about, wow, this really tells a story. And this photo certainly does that. So thank
Yeah.
you for going over the crash testing portion of
Yeah,
it.
and that
This
was
is
just like I
amazing.
said, this was the most dramatic one. This is the one I like to share with people. We got accused of this being fabricated as well. I'm like, I don't know how we could fabricate this, but it's not. And this is just one of hundreds, but for me, it's the most dramatic one. And to hear the backstory, when the people reach out to us, they give us the backstory, and they're like, thank you so much for building such a amazing product. And more often than not, it's with a dog in there, and the dog was safe. But not only that, when you're in an accident and say you have a pet in the vehicle with you and they're not contained in a kennel, now all of a
Mhm.
sudden you're out on the road, you have to vacate your vehicle. Where's your dog going to go safely? It's a scary time for the dog. There's rescue vehicles, there's other cars driving by. When you have a kennel and you can, remove that from your car and set it off to the side and have your dog safely contained and not have to worry about them, these are things that I hope people start to think about in terms of overall safety.
Yeah, means the world, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Well, we've been talking a lot about kennels and looking at, different photos and things. Tell me a little bit about this product here.
Yes, this is one of our other proprietary products called the Clean Cut. It's a uniquely designed cutting board that has tapered grooves. So originally it was designed for fish, cleaning fish and filleting
Mhm.
fish, because those tapered grooves help the slime and stuff transfer off into those channels there. When we purchased the product and the patent, we redesigned it a little bit and gave it that extra lip around the edge so that you have another little reservoir and
Mhm.
a place to grab onto. We have two sizes of this, and so you can do game on it as well. I had shared with you that I do all my canning on it because when you are blanching those tomatoes, that stuff gets messy, right? And I'm
It
peeling the
does.
skin off, and then I have a nice that reservoir there to catch all that while I'm doing my tomatoes and my onions and whatnot. And the greatest thing about it is you throw it in the dishwasher to clean it, or you can take it outside and hose it off. And there again, speaking to the graphic, this is going in a dishwasher, right? I don't want that graphic coming off for one of my consumers, because next thing you know, they have it out at their hunting site, their lodge, or their campground, and someone's like, oh, that's a cool thing. And if our name's not on there, you know they're not
Sure.
going to. But now they see, ooh, Clean Cut, they do a quick little internet search, we pop up, takes them right to our site, and they know what it is and where they can get it. So there again, that graphics is important. I mean, you're getting blood and guts and acidic tomato stuff on it, and it continues to hold up. And I
Sure.
loved how you said earlier too, like the life of the product. And I'm like, well, our stuff is made to last forever. And so it
True.
literally needs to last forever.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and
Right.
yeah, and that's also the kind of the downfall of our product, right? It's not like it's consumable, and it's also not like it degrades. And so when you buy a kennel, unless you get another dog or love one of our limited edition colors that's coming out, you really don't need another one because it's going to last forever. And so we want to try to make you want another one.
Yeah.
Or
I
gift ideas.
tell you what, I am wanting one of these things. I had never seen this until we were prepping for it, and That is great design. Great
Yeah,
design.
and very lightweight. Like I said, super easy. And all of our material is food grade safe.
Mm,
So from the dog kennels, the bowls, because it's coming in contact. Obviously, this one's coming in contact with food, but also when you are having a product that your pets are in contact with every day, so that. Dogs like to chew, right? It's not to say that our kennels aren't indestructible. We never claim that. Dogs can destroy just about anything. So if they get to chewing on something, yeah, it's not going to feel good in their tummy and they might puke it up, but it's food grade safe, FDA approved, and so it's not toxic to them. So even though their tummy isn't going to like that little piece of plastic, it's not going to be toxic or harmful to them.
understood. And that's something that we have to address all the time. We,
Yes.
always ask customers, are there any compliances that we
Yes.
need to address, and to be able to make a label as well that is, FDA
Yes, I
is
remember
great
that when
too.
I first started working with you, you guys had this great little form and we would fill it out. And I remember I'm like, oh yeah, it has to have this. Well, I don't know if it needs this because I don't even know what this is. So I'm trying to educate myself. But yeah, I love that you guys do that because then we can feel good about putting your graphic on our product as well because it follows the same standards that we do.
Absolutely. Look at this one.
This is one of our newest items. It's called the Chow Box. It's a travel food container. This was
Mhm.
sent to me by a guide. He does waterfall, migratory bird. Um, uh, oh my gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. Not
No,
not guiding, but he takes groups out and hunts birds. And anyway, he
sure.
had this in the back of his vehicles. You can kind of see the kennels there in the background. But he sent this to me. He's like, "Yeah, we're putting it through the ringer." And again, this graphic needs to stay on there, and he's going to hose it off, and it's going to be in the sun. Um, and that's another thing as well. Our materials are UV stabilized. So if you buy one of our fun, bright colors, you buy your bright red or your Malibu or your purple or whatever, you want it to be that color for the life of the product. And so
Sure.
our material is UV stabilized as well. And there's that little reservoir in the back there. If you see kind of like that circle area, that's where our dog bowl can sit. So when you open up the chow box lid, you scoop out their food and you can put it in the bowl right there in the back of the unit.
Again, great design.
Yeah.
Kudos to you guys for putting this together. It's great.
Thanks. Oh, yes.
What's this?
Another fun one. I wish there were fishing poles sticking up out of there, but that's what this is. It's a fishing pole holder to kind of organize your rods and reels when you're either, on your boat or on the dock,
Mhm.
or I use it in my garage to honestly, I put all of my gardening tools and my shovels and stuff in it.
Great idea.
Yeah, and so this one again, you're out on the water, you're out in the sun. We want that graphic to stand out. We need it to stay on there. It can't be peeling up like you saw in some of your photos. It can't be scratching off because then people, again, you look at this. I mean, you look at it now with a name on it, you still are kind of like, well, what is this? But at least with that graphic on there, you can search RadPod, and again, it'll take you right to our site, and you can be like, oh, cool. What a unique idea. And a fun gift giving idea as well because it's unique.
For sure. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Okay, yeah,
And
this
then
is one of our most popular accessories. We probably sell more of these than anything, along with the kennels, called the water hole. Again, a fun name. When you can have fun names and have fun with your graphics, that's what I love about it too.
mhm,
And even though we might do, you and I talked about, there's other ways of logoing up your item with the engraving inside the mold, and
mhm.
we do that as well. So a lot of our products will also have that engraving on them, but that you can't see because it's just the raised up portion of the plastic. And so unless you're getting up close to it, it's not really there to draw attention to your brand or your product. It's kind of just there to keep track of who's making this, whose it is. But having the opportunity to put the water hole on there. So this is a 1 gallon travel water container. What it does is when you tip it on its back, it holds the water in a reservoir. So if I'm going to take my dogs to the park, or sometimes I have little weekend trips to visit a customer or supplier, I'll bring this with me and we make a stop along the way. You just tip it up. My dogs drink out of the reservoir. I tip it on its back, put it in the car, and it doesn't spill. And then I don't have to bring a 1 gallon water jug, pour it in a bowl, dump the water out that the dog's not drinking. So it's all in one contained. And again, mine's been outside. I have like 3 of these, one in my car, one outside on my patio, one here in my office, because my dogs are with me here every day. And the one out on my patio here in South Dakota, we get brutal extremes in weather. It's been out there for 7 years now. Looks just like the day that I set it out there.
Again, another product that I will be looking at getting for myself, because yes, I struggle, as you and I were talking. I have a 90-pound Great Pyrenees and Border Collie mix, and yes, it's a challenge with water and keeping water and not spilling water. So
Yeah.
again, great design.
And it's
Great
kind of good
design.
because they have to have their head down in there. I know some of our employees here, they have wire hairs and, that bearded dog, they call it.
Mhm,
And so
mhm.
they're dripping that water. Well, because their head's down in there, a lot of times, I wouldn't say all of it stays in there. Obviously, there's some dribble, but a lot of it just dribbles off back into there, and the dog walks away and you don't have a mess all around it on your floor.
Again, testament to the design work and the
Yeah.
thoughtfulness that went into it. So,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Well, um, appreciate you showing us a little bit about what you do and some of the stunning photographs. And again, the one with the crash,
Yeah.
real life was amazing. At this point, I would like to open up things to uh, the audience and just see what questions are out there. In fact, one thing I'm seeing here, it says, "I just put the water hole in my cart." So,
Yay, thank you.
yep,
That's
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah. And somebody else had stated here, "I love how your branding and products hold up out in the field. It really shows the quality behind Ruffland." So,
Yeah. We should do a giveaway. Like, let's do next webinar. You do a giveaway, and we'll send it to whoever your winner is.
there you go. Well, I was curious if there are any other comments or questions coming in, but one thing that comes up often is serializing. If somebody wanted to keep track of things, do you guys do any sort of serialization or tracking on your
We
products at all?
don't. We don't. But what used to be great with what we had with you guys, we've gone through a number of revisions of our graphics with you over the years.
Mhm.
We used to have our patent pending number on there, which was really handy, because then when someone saw that patent pending number, and then when we got our patent, we could put our patent number right on there. And come to find out, as your company grows and as you get to have these copycats and even scammers out there or whatever, when you can have your patent number on something, that gives you a level of protection. And
Mhm.
so when we're working with our patent lawyers and everything, they strongly recommend that we have our patent number on everything. And you can do that easily with a graphic, or having it imprinted in the mold. But we didn't have it imprinted in the mold when we purchased our new molds. And so a nice way to add that to the product is just with a graphic.
For sure.
Yeah.
You had mentioned too about being made in the USA. Can you talk a little bit
Oh,
about
thank
that?
you for bringing that up. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
something
no
we are
worries.
very proud of as well. And I know over my early years with the company, the guys had toyed with, well, maybe we should just have this made overseas, because you go through struggles of, can we find enough employees, and sourcing materials and being cost effective and all of this stuff. And I strongly urged them. I said, do not do it. I said, I really feel like you have something here that's special, and unique. And bringing stuff in from overseas has its challenges as well, right? Just because you're getting something quote unquote cheaper, you still have to have those crazy lead times. And then when COVID came, we were sitting pretty, man, because everything we do is made in America. We have one part that is sourced from overseas that goes on to our kennels. We didn't used to incorporate handles on every kennel. It was an option. Well, now with our redesign of our kennels, the handles are included with every kennel, which I think is amazing. However, that part is sourced from overseas. We have tried multiple times to find a stateside supplier, and impossible. I will say almost next to impossible. Every handle you see, like whether it's on a kayak or whatever, they all get them from the same place, right? And so that's
Understood.
something. But now also with the tariffs, we're fine as well, because everything we do, we start in South Dakota. Who in South Dakota could help us, with these supplies or make this for us? And if we can't find someone here, then we start branching out. And you guys are the main name in graphics. So
Well, thank you. Thank
yeah.
you. One other thing that we had touched on too, and I don't think you talked about it yet, but the conservation groups,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Did you?
I mentioned it just a little bit with our mold on graphics, that we're involved with a couple of conservation
Okay.
groups. We along with the military and the law enforcement, we're passionate about obviously preserving land, having spaces for dogs to go run,
Mhm.
play, train, having those spaces for people to bring their kids, right? And have an experience where
Absolutely.
you're out hunting or enjoying whatever. So we feel passionate about that. We're national sponsors of a couple different conservation groups, and with that, we co-brand our stuff with them. And same with the military and law enforcement, right? They're there for everybody. When you need somebody, it's not just like with the outdoors. It's not discriminatory, right? The outdoors is for everyone. Law enforcement and military are here to protect everyone, and we want to support that. And so we kind of put our money where our mouth is. Um, Something else that you had mentioned earlier too was recycled material. We also appreciate the fact about the graphic being recyclable, because we have now gone into sustainability as much as we can, and have a line of kennels and products that are made from 20% recycled material. Our own material gets ground up and put back into virgin material, and then we bring it back in. And so we have a 20% recycled product.
That's
And
fantastic.
we recycle all of our scrap material, but not all of it goes back into our kennels, because what we used to do is we would sell it out on the market for people who needed the recycled material. But also, one of our custom things that we do, we make roping steers,
Mm,
and the roping steers don't have to have the flexibility and durability necessarily of our virgin material. So what they do is they use what's called regrind, and so it is all recycled material. And then we bring it back in and make these roping steers. So we buy some of our own product back, but then we also put some of it back into our material, and then we sell some of it. So being very conscientious of the environment.
that is great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the chat section. I'm not seeing anything else that's coming up. Anything in closing that you would like to add?
Gosh, I don't know. I think we talked about just about everything, but I really appreciate you, and I've appreciated having access to you over the years too. That if I had a struggle or a question or whatever, that you were accessible. And I call you the guru of graphics. Like, I feel like you know everything about it, and it's nice to have. And your team there, working with your team, has always been super easy um, to work with. The portal that you guys have for having our graphics loaded in there and seeing what our quantity price breakdowns are. So kudos to you guys for that. And we've really appreciated the partnership.
Well, thank you. And yes, definitely a partnership. And thank you for all the years of working together. It's been an absolute
Yeah.
pleasure. So
Thank you,
thank you.
Jason. Likewise.
All right. Well, this will be available for people that couldn't catch it live. And so, again, with that being said, Alisa, thank you. Thank you for a great product offering and discussion today. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Have a great rest of your week.
You bet. Bye bye.